There's something strange about the human body. We are surprisingly good at drinking, way better than most animals. And that's odd. Alcoholic drinks are a recent invention, about 13,000 years old. Nobody had time to evolve for that, unless we were already drinking long before we ever invented the drink. And that's exactly what happened, 10 million years before. Let me tell you a secret about that drink you had last weekend. That was technically poison. I'm not being dramatic. Alcohol is a toxin. It kills cells, it hammers your liver, it scrambles your brain. An animal your size can drink enough of it to die in one night. A dog that drank, pound for pound, what plenty of people drink at a party would be in serious trouble. And that's the mystery. Your body makes it look routine. You drink something that should floor you. And the next morning, if you're lucky, it's just a headache. Your body has an entire assembly line built and ready purely to take that poison apart. Think about how strange that is. It's like being born knowing how to defuse a bomb nobody ever handed you. Where did that skill come from? Nobody taught you. It came pre-installed. And the answer is one of the wildest stories our species has. That's just the surface. Where this story actually starts is somewhere you'd never guess. Stick with me. The twist in the middle is worth it. The obvious first answer is simple. We're good at drinking because we've been drinking for ages. Fair enough. So let's go find the oldest booze on record. It takes us to a cave in Israel 13,000 years ago. A people called the Natufians left stone mortars there, and inside them, scientists found residue of beer, the oldest alcohol humans ever made on purpose. 13,000 years. Sounds like a lot, right? Except the math falls apart. 13,000 years in evolutionary time is a blink. It's yesterday. You don't build sophisticated biochemical machinery in that window. It would be like taking your first swimming lesson last week and medaling at the Olympics on Sunday. It doesn't happen. So the alibi doesn't hold. Our ability to drink is far too old to have come from the drink. Something in this story is lying about its age, and it isn't your body. Which means something wild. Long before the first beer, long before the first human, someone in our lineage was already drinking, and they left a mark you are carrying right now. To find that mark, we have to go back a lot further than 13,000 years. We have to go back 10 million. Picture a forest in Africa, long before anything you'd call people. Up in the branches lives our ancestor, the lineage that, much further down the road, becomes us. Life happens up there, safe, high, far from the ground. But the world was shifting. Forests were shrinking. The climate was cooling. Open ground was spreading out below, and out of necessity, our ancestor does something risky. He climbs down. He puts his feet on the forest floor. Down there are predators. There's danger, but there's also food nobody else is picking up. And that's when he finds it. Fruit. Fallen fruit, lying on the forest floor, gone past ripe. The kind of fruit that sat there a little too long and started to turn, to ferment. He gets close. There's a smell. Sweet, strong, a little odd. A smell that carries, that you can pick up from meters away. That smell is alcohol being born right there in the rotting fruit. And to our hungry ancestor, that smell means exactly one thing. Food. He eats it. And without the faintest idea what he's doing, he just took the first sip of alcohol in our story. Now the question is simple. What happens to him next? Here's where it turns into a thriller. Eating that fermented fruit was not a neutral act. It had consequences, and those consequences sorted the living from the dead. Picture two of our ancestors side by side eating the same fallen fruit. The first one doesn't handle alcohol well. A few mouthfuls in, and he's off. He stumbles, his vision smears, his reflexes vanish. And remember where he is, on the ground, out in the open, surrounded by things that eat him. A drunk ancestor doesn't defend his territory. He doesn't notice danger coming. He doesn't run in time. He becomes easy prey, and easy prey doesn't leave descendants. The second one is different. His body processes it. He eats the fruit, banks the calories, and stays sharp. Every other animal had to avoid fermented fruit. For them, it really was poison. But this ancestor could just eat more food, less competition, better odds of surviving. See the flip? We think of getting drunk as what alcohol does. But back then, getting drunk got you killed. Holding your drink was the survival superpower. Generation after generation, nature quietly kept the ones who handled it better. But what exactly separated one ancestor from the other? You couldn't see it. The difference was buried deep inside the body, and scientists actually managed to find it. It's called ADH4. It's an enzyme, and it is your body's first line of defense against alcohol. Literally the first. It's already in your mouth, your throat, your stomach. The second alcohol enters, it throws the first punch, breaking the poison down before it even gets a chance to spread. It's the gatekeeper. It decides whether that sip becomes usable food or a dangerous mess. And here the story picks up a science fiction twist, except it's real. A team of scientists, led by a researcher named Matthew Kerrigan, did something remarkable. They resurrected this enzyme, not the version you have today. the ancestral versions of it from millions of years ago. Here's how it works. By comparing DNA across living primates, you can reconstruct, letter by letter, what the enzyme looked like in our ancestors at different points in time. They rebuilt those ancient versions in the lab, and they tested each one. How well could this enzyme from 50 million years ago, from 20, from 10, actually destroy alcohol? It's basically a molecular Jurassic Park. They brought a piece of the past back to life to ask one simple question. When, exactly, did we get good at drinking? And the answer they got is the heart of this whole thing. For most of our ancestral history, ADH4 was lazy. The oldest versions, from the primates living up in the trees, could barely break alcohol down at all. If you were one of them and you ate fermented fruit, the ethanol piled up in your blood fast and put you on the floor. Then, around 10 million years ago, one change happened. Not a redesign, a single point, one letter swapped in the genetic code. And that one swap made the enzyme 40 times better at destroying alcohol. 40 times. In one move, right at the moment our ancestors were coming down to the ground and running into that fermented fruit. The timing is too clean to be a coincidence. Kerrigan himself put it perfectly. Without that mutation, alcohol would build up in your blood far too fast. In his words, you'd be a cheap date, the one who's tipsy off half a glass. And back then, being a cheap date wasn't embarrassing at a party. It was a death sentence on the forest floor. So let that sink in. You don't hold your drink because you trained for it. You don't handle a beer because you're tough. You handle it because 10 million years ago, an ancestor of yours got a lucky mutation on the floor of an African forest and passed it down, generation after generation, until it reached you. Your alcohol tolerance is an inheritance, a gift from someone hungry who made the right call in the wrong place. And this is just one of the things we carry around in our bodies with no idea where it came from. There's a whole pile of them. If you're curious which one's next, people always drop good ideas down in the comments. Now hang on, the last twist is the best one. Come back with me to that Raqefet Cave 13,000 years ago, the oldest beer in the world. There's a detail I've been sitting on. That cave wasn't a bar, it was a burial site, a place where they laid their dead. The beer was found among human remains in a context of ritual, of ceremony. The first drink we ever made on purpose wasn't to unwind after work, it was for something sacred. And that opens one of the wildest ideas in archaeology. The story has always been that humanity started planting cereals, wheat, barley, to make bread. That's how farming was born, and with it, towns, civilization, all of it. But some people argue for a different version. What if it wasn't hunger for bread? What if it was thirst for beer? The idea is that wanting that drink for the rituals may have been reason enough to stop wandering, settle down, and start growing grain, which would mean we became farmers and eventually built the entire modern world, partly to keep the next round coming. It's a theory, and a genuinely debated one, so I'm not going to sell it to you as fact. But look at the whole arc here. An ancestor climbs down from a tree chasing rotten fruit. 10 million years later, his descendants may have invented agriculture to make beer, from one accidental sip to the cradle of civilization. So in the end, we had the whole thing backwards. We think we invented alcohol, that it was some clever trick humanity figured out. The truth is the opposite. Alcohol was here long before we were, and it helped shape what we became. It was in the fallen fruit before there was ever a glass. It rewrote our bodies before there was ever a word. You didn't inherit a taste for drinking. That part's on you. What you inherited was the ability, from a hungry ancestor who, on dangerous ground, made the right call and lived to pass it on. So next time you take a sip and your body just handles it, remember, that isn't normal. That's a 10-million-year-old superpower hiding inside you, handed down by someone who had no idea what he was starting. The fire stays lit here every week. Just show up. See you next time.